General Practitioner. Step 1.
For this, we're going to use a standard salmon hook and some fluorescent fire orange 6/0 thread. I prefer to keep a standard 6/0 thread for this fly. What we want to do is cover up that double over portion of the hook eye where the hook's been folded back, right up to the hook point.
Step 2.
Now for this, you can use polar bear or calf tail or squirrel. This is some calf tail in an orange color, and quite sparse. And there's really no need to stack this. Make it about the length of the hook shank. It's going to be quite long. This fly is supposed to imitate somewhat of a shrimp, so it should have, these are going to be the antenna.
Step 3.
Next, we're going to take a smaller side body feather to a golden pheasant and just trim off that right there. The reason we use a small feather is because the tips tend to match up a little better than one of the longer feathers. Tie that in so it's about a hook gap in length over top of our calf tail.
Step 4.
Now what we're going to do is take a saddle hackle, preferably something that's a little bit more webby than the average one, and snip off the tip in an orange or peach color, whatever you want, and have the top of the feather pointing up or towards us.
Step 5.
Now we're going to tie in a piece of gold oval ribbing, probably a medium or a large. Tie that in right where the tail and the hackle are tied in.
Step 6.
Now we're going to dub on a bit of seal fur, and again some antron or rabbit or your dubbing of choices you want to put in here. Fairly thin. You want to keep the body quite sparse. Make sure that the dubbing noodle tip is quite tight too. That'll help the rest of the dubbing follow. That nice uniform shape. About halfway down the body.
Step 7.
Now take and wrap your ribbing. We're not reverse wrapping here just because we want the hackle to follow right alongside the ribbing, so we don't want to reverse wrap. Trim that off on the side. You don't want it on the top of the hook. That way when we tie in our next wing, it's not going to cause the wing to go crooked on us. Here we are. Keep twisting the hackle in order to keep those fibers pointing towards the tail end of the fly. You can see each wrap is right beside the ribbing, which helps cushion the hackle quill, keep it from breaking. Trim off the top, so this way the next wing we tie in will lay flat.
Step 8.
Now this is a golden pheasant neck or crest feather. And what we want to do is find one that's going to match up to about the end of the golden pheasant body feather we tied in. Snip that off. You're going to take and cut the center portion of this feather out, and that's how it's going to lay in there and act as the pinchers on the shrimp.
Step 9.
Now what you can do is tie it in just like that, or you can glue it. And this just helps keep the feathers a little bit more solid and together so they show up a little better and don't flare on you. You want to use a Dave's Flex cement for that. And here we've got one already dried. And take a pair of flat pliers and pinch the quill flat, and that'll help it lay flat on top of the body of the hook. Wrap a little ways up the fibers. There you go, it should lay just like that.
Step 10.
Now we're going to come in with 2 body feathers, and preferably 2 shorter ones because this wing isn't going to be that long. And the reason we use 2 is just to help for thickness, just to keep that color bright. One tends to be too thin and show too much of the underbody. peel some of those fibers away. You can see where this wants to, how far you want this to overlap. You basically want those two pinchers or golden pheasant neck to show through, just past the tip of the wing. You can tie these in, one on top of another. Wrap those butt ends down, and that way they're not going to slide down on you because this feather's quite slippery.
Step 11.
Now we're going to come in with another saddle feather, preferably something a little bit webbier, and again tied in by the tip. That way it keeps the taper of the palmer hackle consistent, longer towards the head of the fly.
Step 12.
And again with another piece of gold oval tinsel. Butt it up against the base of the hackle.
Step 13.
And a bit more dubbing. Again, quite sparse. This fly can be tied in all sorts of colors, blacks and purples and oranges and reds.
Good all-around steelhead fly.
It is, definitely. Dub that on. Leave space for the head of the fly. You definitely need that space there. Better too much than too little.
Step 14.
Bring our rimming forward. Only a couple turns, because remember our hackle's going to follow and we don't want them too tight. Tie that in on the side of the hook, not the top. Otherwise it'll kink our last wing. Come forward with this other hackle. Again, right beside the ribbing. And that acts as a bit of a cushion. Not on top of it, but beside it. Either in front or behind, however you want. Then make maybe one extra turn here at the head, just as a bit of a collar. Helps neaten the fly up. Trim that off clean on the side of the fly, not the top. Couple turns to secure it so it's not going to slip out. And again, trim the top so the wing's going to lay down.
Step 15.
Now we're going to use some of the longer body feathers just because it has to extend all the way over the back of the fly. You want those to have some nice curvature to them. See, the ends should meet up. Again, measure them so that they're going to lay right over the back and meet up with your first wing. And leave a bit of the quill exposed here. You can see how I'm peeling that off. You'll understand why in a second. And your wing is going to make your fly look a lot better by having it nicely curved. A super straight feather tends to make the wing want to poke upwards. Here we'll flatten it again just to keep the wing laying down. And snip off those phyllo plumes. Lay those two wings together. Find it's best to lay the wings together. And just tie down the quill, not any of the fibers, otherwise it will cause them to split. Now what you want to do is take those butt ends and fold them backwards. And that'll definitely keep them from ever sliding out on you. It's a good trick for just about any feather, actually.
Step 16.
There you go, you're ready to whip finish. And you can see the reason we've left space for the head to tie in that wing. To not butt up against the eye of the hook. And there you go.
You can see where it does look a little bit like a shrimp.
Now if you wanted to make this fly a little thinner, you could peel one side of the hackle when you wrap it in and use less of a wing if you wanted it to be quite sparse.